Here we go. I hear the clicking.
Yeah,
I hear you back there, Isaiah. Good morning. Welcome to our second live panel discussion with our next group of speakers. And just before we came on, I had my feet crossed, I had them up, and I put them down on the floor, and I heard Lois telling me, take a deep breath, ground, bring in some violent flame. I needed to take a breather because I get on these calls with women like this and I start to sweat and I don't know what it is. So something's happening, right? Something's happening. And this is fitting because it seems like we've divided our speakers. It's amazing. Yesterday's speakers, it seemed like we talked a lot about trusting and allowing our life journey, allowing ourselves to be taken along our life journey. And today, it seems like a lot of these talks, a lot of the speakers today talked about their bodies. And, you know, we're at war with our bodies. We're not listening to our bodies. We're not giving our bodies what they need. Or in a couple cases, getting the messages, opening our channel in our bodies and allowing some creativity or messages to come through. So I think that's really cool how that happened. And of course, it wasn't by accident. It's not coincidence, right? When all this fun stuff happens. So hi again, I'm Chris. Isaiah is up here. Oh, we got the Brady Bunch going. Isaiah is up here today handling all the tech, doing her tech goddess job. And I wonder if I can go around. So above me, right, we have Christy. We have Leslie, Lisa, Vivian, Cindy, Maureen, and Lois. Welcome, speakers. Thank you so much for coming together today for our second live panel discussion. I'm so glad you could all make it, especially a couple of West Coasters. Thank you for getting up and being here early for us. We have no Australians, so that's good. It makes life easier with the time zones. Let me see. What should we get started with this morning? I'm going to ask everybody the same questions I think that we talked about yesterday. I think it went well. Why did you join? You know, you get, I had a new question actually because of the topic. When Isaiah contacted you, I wonder if your body told you whether this was a hell yes or a maybe or a hell no. I guess if it was a hell no, you wouldn't be here, right? Because we all know now that we need to listen to our bodies. So Christy, let's start with you.
You know, it's funny.
Why did you join?
Well, this is my third year, so I'm a veteran, very delighted. And I went, oh, hell yeah. Because I watched you guys in my Empowered Hours sessions that we were doing years ago. Chris, I want to do these summits and Isaiah goes, I've got the software. And Chris is like, oh, and you know, we could travel around. And Isaiah goes, no, we can do it online first, because this is during like height of COVID. And Chris is like, yeah, we could do this. And Isaiah's like, I've got the software, you know. And it was like such a moment of, you know, watching it go like, wow, this is happening. Because I know Isaiah would, when she's like, it's gonna happen. And here we are,
the Taurus,
right? And here we are 3 years later, yes. So I just said hell yes. And then afterwards I'm like, oh, what am I going to talk about? I've told my stories twice already. What could I possibly talk about? So, and I figured it out. I mean, and I always I love storytelling. So
Cool.
yeah,
Yay. Well, thank you again for joining us.
thank you.
Yay. And Leslie, how did it feel? Did you have a body reaction to Isaiah's invitation? And was there something that you were hoping to get out of the summit?
Well, I have watched you the last couple of years doing this summit and just loved that it was happening. So initially, I was very excited to be invited to be here. And the way, like, my body cue is I feel relaxed. Like, even though I kind of have some tendency towards anxiety and speaking in public can bring that up, I felt totally relaxed, happy, really thrilled to be here. And I think what I hope to get out of it was really just to be a part of this sharing of stories. I do feel like you both have expressed, and it's part of why I'm so drawn. Like, it's so important that we're here telling these stories, and then when I've watched the talks, I just feel that over and over again. There's a few things in every single talk that I feel just like land in my body. I feel like more home here, just having these words from these beautiful women. Yeah.
Yay. Yes. Thank you. Yes. Lisa, how about you? How did you feel? Were
Yeah,
you were
since
you in right away?
for me it was the second year, the second, for Christy it was the third, and it was an instantaneous, oh yes, I want to be part of it again. And similar to what Christy shared, like, oh, and what exactly am I going to talk about? But it was this sense of coming into my body, like really settling in, landing in my own body. Yes, I've got something even deeper to share this year, and something that's even more aligned with who I am and yeah, my journey. So I'm very grateful
Awesome.
that I was
Awesome.
invited again.
Cool. Thank you. Vivian, how about you? You're back again.
Yeah. This is my second year too, like Lisa, and yeah, for me it was like a huge yes. I mean, I didn't even have to think about it, and I was very excited because there's been like, in my case, there's been like a massive growth from last year to this year, and I felt excited to like to share, from a different energy than I was last year, and so yeah, it was a huge yes. I didn't have to think about it.
Good. Right. Thinking can get in the
That's
way,
right.
right? Like that's probably one of the things that we've all learned. Like that comes later, right? That's the I don't want to get on a tangent. Sorry. Okay. Cindy.
It's
How
so interesting to hear all of these responses. So I was invited by Leslie, and at first I was more of I had the lean in and I was curious, but it really was when I talked to and met with Isaiah that I was like, hell yes, I want to do this. And as we talk about our bodies' messages, I'm realizing that, in my story, I ignored mine for so long, and you all know where that landed me, passed out cold on a grocery store floor. And so I'm compelled to share the message so that other women will start listening to their bodies.
yes, yes, thank you. Definitely. And Maureen, you have another body story, but how did it feel when you were
Yes,
invited by Isaiah? Were you in?
like so many of us, we learn about, where the good mushrooms are, where the good berries are from our women friends. And I meet with Leslie and Cindy 4 times a year in a beautiful supportive mastermind. And Leslie shared that she was interested and was going to sign up for this. And we all got curious. And it was really the sisterhood that sort of lifted, landed in my body as excitement. And I had a lot going on at the time, and I was nervous that I wouldn't be able to participate. And Cindy said, I think you might be more ready than you think. And so when I met with Isaiah, I felt immediately grounded, trusting. I was like spacious. I was like, yes, in my body, I could feel that this was an exciting opportunity to grow. Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool. Nice, nice. How about you, Lois?
Yeah, actually, I knew right away, probably even before I spoke with Isaiah, and then and part of it was a referral from Tammy that went to Sherry L, because Sherry and I meet weekly. We're working doing some developmental work together, and then as soon as I met Isaiah, I went, yeah, I'm in. I'm in already before we finish our conversation. And part of it is, as a psychic artist, I've been receiving and drawing and painting a lot of the goddesses. And I'm thinking, this has changed a lot, because I do a lot of spirit guide and people coming through, that have crossed, and then all of a sudden it was like, what is all, I think it started with Green Tara, doing a lot of work with Green Tara, and then all of a sudden I'm getting a lot of other goddesses coming in for people, and I'm thinking, that's that feminine divine energy at work, right? So yeah, I was in right away, and I loved the idea that Isaiah presented, the way she modeled it, and that's actually was really interesting. So
Nice. So let me remind you, anyone watching our live discussion right now, that this is the second day. The talks were released beginning Friday. The replays are available for a week. The link to register is in the comments or possibly above this video. It is absolutely free to register. You can listen to all the talks. You can just select individual talks to listen to. Each speaker has a free giveaway. But if what you have just heard from the speakers intrigues you, I invite you to please sign up, go listen to their talks, see what they have as a giveaway, and you may be led to work with one of them, or just see what they have, or just listen to their talk, and you're going to find something in there that speaks to you, that gives you maybe a hint or an answer to something that you've been asking. There is something to take away from everybody's talks, and it's incredible that it's free, but it's free. Replays are free for a week. If you don't have time this week, you can actually buy the summit for $39. Is it euros or dollars? Are they close?
Euros.
Okay,
I was,
39
you left me on my
euros.
own to decide this year, so I decided for euros.
Okay. There you go. And here's Isaiah. Welcome, Isaiah.
Hi, guys.
You're in here
Yes,
today.
I am here. I'm showing my face today. Well, I was supposed to start the hosting. Thank you very much for doing my job, because I was doing the other job. So now we are live everywhere. The link is everywhere, and I'm relaxed.
Awesome.
So, yeah, I would love to speak a little bit with our amazing speakers.
Yeah.
The first thing that popped into my mind, because I'm a very visual person, is we have 3 alumni, and they're all here today. So it's also very important for me that we both continue this work of creating the library of women's stories in the world, and that we increase this library with having new speakers every year, which I love, and also by helping our attendees and anyone who listens realize that we have each of and every one of us more than one story, and so that alumni can come again and again and again to tell their stories. So I would like to thank both our alumni and our newest speakers. I've heard lots of you saying that my energy was whatever, brought you here.
Confidence inspiring.
Something like that, yeah. I just wanted to honor Chris a little bit for just 1 minute, if you'll be all right, guys, because this thing would not exist without her either. And although for many of you, you've not met Chris, she wasn't around for a while because she was doing other things. Without her, and without her this could be fun motto, I would never have dared to launch this crazy idea. I'm the persevering person. I'm the one that, I'm given a bone, I will keep the bone, and keep going at it. But I need a bone. And these with which Chris throws bones all over the place. And yeah, no, don't laugh.
Are we going back to that?
Yes, we are, definitely.
We're on this motif.
So, to get more serious.
Okay, I'm sorry. My mind's going there.
There's, I'm having a connection issues. Camera. Well, we're gonna trust that we're not going to break the internet.
I think you're okay.
There's a lot of energy. So, I would like to discuss with our speakers today is something around what I call authenticity, which some people rather prefer to call vulnerability. What we ask of you every year, and this is year 3, is difficult. We ask that you dare to talk about yourself in a world, the online world, that is a lot about the facade, I don't know how you pronounce that, the persona, the nice makeup, the AI enhanced faces, the text written by AI. We ask that you talk about your story and that you dare to be authentic. We know that it's difficult. Every year, some of you face challenges. I would like to know, how was it for you? To get asked that. Because, let's do this. I'm going to sign up for this. And then it hits, kind of the fan, whatever hits the fan, that, what these girls are asking me is actually to talk about myself. So how was it to be asked that? Do you want me to name people for answers, or do you want to go?
I can go.
Okay, I'm going. Yeah, please be my guest.
Okay, I will. I started teaching yoga when I was in my late 20s or very early 30s, and I remember the first business card that I had, and we were invited to put a word. So we had a photograph and a word, and the word that I chose was authenticity, and that has stuck with me for all of these years. I'm almost 60 now. So for 30 years, that really has been a guiding light. And that doesn't mean that I'm always like completely forthright, although that it really is my intention. But coming here and being asked again, like now, to really be authentic, to dig in and like go into a deeper place, and that vulnerable place of sharing, again, like that landed in my body as a place I really, really wanted to go. And I tell stories all the time. I'm a good storyteller. I love telling stories. But I can see the place where I tell stories as a teacher often.
Mm-hmm.
And so what this really helped me to do was to drop in. And yes, that part of me is not going to go away. That is an authentic part. I am a teacher. And it wasn't with the intent of teaching, but really of the intent of connecting and the intent of sharing and the intent of like being fully present, which is part of my mission in life. It's like to help myself and others to be more completely present with who we are. So I loved the challenge, and really just honor everyone else for stepping into that as well.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. What I think I said that to some of you. Do not teach. Tell me about your story. Tell me about you. The teaching is in the telling the story, not in the intention of teaching. And it's very, very different. Does any of you resonate with that little step on the side that we asked you to do? Did you feel the difference between that and straightforward teaching? please talk, just not nodding your heads.
Yeah. I really love that, and there is a lot of storytelling, the promotion of storytelling versus don't just sit in front of the camera and talk about do this, do that. And so the storytelling, and I think the storytelling was really, it's been very fascinating for me because my mom, who is in spirit, and she's been, gone for 20 plus years, um, I found, I actually found journals that she had written. We didn't know. She actually was a journaler, and the stories that were in there, and she even had some recordings on these old little cassette tapes, which probably kids nowadays go, "What's a cassette?" Yeah, and she sang and talked about, and I grew up with 9 siblings, so there was a lot of stories. And so the storytelling makes it easier. And I think also it brings in that, what you were saying, the authenticity, tell your story. And that can be very difficult because in writing a book that I'm working on, I still go back and forth to, well, if I say that, um, is somebody going to be upset with me? If I tell the true story, because I have a lot of true stories that I would go, oh, I think I need to do that under a different name, right? So nobody knows it's me, although they might, if they read the book, know that I'm talking about it, right? And so I'm sure we all have had those, but I love the storytelling, and it makes it easier. And take a breath, you tell me about yourself. Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
maybe sorry.
Oh, I was
Didn't
just
want to
gonna.
interrupt.
I was gonna say.
I guess.
I just want to speak to that piece that Lois is talking about right now about being seen by people. And when you asked the question, Isaiah, I realized that when I was a lot younger, I was terrified of public speaking. And it wasn't until I think I was terrified because, I always wanted to get things perfect and I wanted to please other people, which I talk about in my story. And I was afraid of what people would think of me and that they wouldn't like me. And it wasn't until I went to college and I took a public speaking class, interpersonal communication, that I realized that, oh my gosh, you don't have to speak in front of hundreds of people. You can speak in front of these small, intimate groups, and it can be fun and engaging and confidence building. And that was where I really realized, and I'm having an aha moment now, and it's still true for me, that I love smaller, intimate circles and groups. And that's where I shine when I speak. And so there's always been this kind of push pull to get myself out there. But this is wonderful.
For me, that maybe we could twist my question a little bit, which is, and now that you've done it, how do you listen to that story? Did you listen to it again?
Mhm.
Or did you just send it to me like, it's done, forget it? Because I know the first year when Chris and myself, we actually did what you did, guys, and we recorded our own talks. I personally did not watch my own talk ever again. I've not watched it to this day. And I've transformed it into a blog post, into a podcast, but still, it's like, okay, it's out there, but I'm not sure I want to watch it again.
Yeah, this is such a rich conversation. So many thoughts are coming to me at once. To that point, one of the things that really helped me to be able to speak publicly, because I also was terrified at one time, was the practice of relational presence. And I studied that with a teacher named Lee Glickstein in Berkeley a long time ago. And it really changed my life. We had to take turns in small groups and stand up and just be present with one person at a time. And it liberated me forever after, I could speak spontaneously and remain in my own body. As a child, also from a large family, there's a lot of competition for the floor, so to speak. And so I feel that one of the things that always made me feel anxious was I'm going to be talked over. I got to get my word in there or else just withdraw. Those are the two options. Go in with your elbows out or just leave, And so having this spacious time of an invitation of 30 minutes where no one's going to interrupt you, that was interesting also. So I just appreciated Isaiah's invitation and almost like boundaries. Really just talk about yourself. Try not to be performing, teaching, sharing, even though it comes out naturally when you're being yourself. It was such a rich invitation to creativity. Like, what are all the different ways I could tell this story? I think I'm in love with metaphor because it's a gateway to multiple destinations. And so thinking about other stories like the one I told about roughly using the Wizard of Oz as a template, what you could learn from stories. There were so many stories that jumped out, and I felt really inspired creatively. What story am I going to tell?
For me, that the invitation was, and it's getting clearer every year that we do this. I think we learn, right, as well. And the invitation is to get away from what we are taught. We are taught that to sell whatever we want to sell as business women online, we have to have a perfect image of whatever the standard is in your industry, and we have to have our ducks in a row. Nothing ever was wrong in my life, and as a buyer, as a client, as a potential client, I could not get more bored by that, because this is just so smooth. There's nothing that attracts me there. What I want to know is, why should I work with you? Because you have this edge, because you're the one wearing the ruby slippers, or you're the one who is not sure she's in the right body, or and that is what makes it interesting for me. And I thought, well, we thought with Chris that if we're interested in that and we're curious about that, maybe we're not the only ones. Lisa, darling, you've been raising your hand.
I wanted to speak to that.
Of course.
Sorry, can you just rephrase again what you just said? Like clicking on my microphone made my mind go blank. Oh yeah, but then no, I got it. Because you said, and what we are also taught is this, like, I have to have it overcome by now in order to present myself as, now I'm done, I'm finished, I'm healed, now I can help you heal. And that is also, like, it's not true. And like, I'm nowhere near there, and still there is so much valuable insights in each stories, and we are never going to be finished with our evolution until the day we die. And
thank you very much.
Life.
Thank you very much for pointing that. I'm gonna put my foot on it and insist on what you're saying is that we women do not tell men's stories. We do not tell stories from rags to riches, from zero to arrival, and then we have arrived. This is not how women's life or women's businesses function. We function in a feminine way, which is not from zero to the top. So we do not need to be at any kind of result or arrival place to start teaching, to start being ourselves, and to be absolutely not only allowed but entitled to teach and to be enlightening the way for other women.
To be fair, I just want to say that men also, they also have cyclical processes, right? So it's just this idea that we have to get to a certain result in order to prove our worth, and that's for everyone in the societies we live in.
No, I was not mentioning. Sorry, I did not say men, or if I did, I should correct myself. Male society is selling us the idea of from rags to riches, from the princess, the Cinderella story, basically, right? So yeah,
Yeah, so like Lisa, what you talked about in your talk, like this,
Mhm.
us right now, creating a new model to move into or move toward, at least moving toward. There we go. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We're spiraling towards our truth, our authenticity. I would just like to say that, especially being being here the second year in a row, is like my talk last year was authentic. Yet I'm not that person anymore. So this time around, it's like even a layer deeper, and it's still authentic. And that was authentic too. And it's like, it's also not, there is not like one authentic, and then you are always going to be there because we evolve. And so that's like every step along the way.
Let's quote Shrek then. The onion thing? Obviously, layers and
Yeah.
layers of truth and authenticity, and deeper we can go. And there are more and more.
Yes. Yes. I
Go on, Chrissy.
Yeah. You know, when you first said something about authenticity, the first thing that popped into my mind was, now when people ask me, how are you? There's always that like extended, greeting of like, hi, how are you? Good, good. It's like, I can't just say that anymore. I'm like, well, some parts of my life are fabulous and some parts of my life are a total poop show. And, there's like that intersection of the two, and that's where I'm living. And I feel like every time I say that, I watch like the person's like shoulders kind of go, yeah, yeah, me too. And I love that part of how we see each other in each other's stories. And I have a mentor who used to say, thank you for being me. And I feel like that's so much of what, Women Lighting the Way is about seeing ourselves in each other. And that even though my story is so unique to my experience, somebody else might find themselves, I found myself in everybody's stories. And I think the part of telling the stories that also felt vulnerable was growing up, always hearing and getting the message to like stay small, don't brag, oh my gosh, do not speak well of yourself. And for me, I read, on my creative journey, one of the things that has always inspired me is this letter from Martha Graham to Agnes DeMille about, being basically getting out of your own freaking way and just shining. And the last line is about being more alive than the others. And that felt so audacious because it's something I've always felt as a creative, especially as I stepped into claiming my conscious creativeness and that energetic side of me. That always felt like, yeah, I do feel a little more alive, like observing how a lot, people who like live in that box kind of thing. It's like, ooh, that just felt, and I think when I started learning about the concept of the witch's wound, of how, we have this epigenetic experience of like, don't shine because you might get caught for being different. And there's an annihilation to that. That takes incredible courage to overcome.
Yeah,
And I just honor
absolutely.
that, and everybody who has done that and shared
Absolutely.
so
Which
deeply.
I'm jumping in to introduce everyone to one of our speakers who is not here today, because she speaks about that in her talk, and I think this is exactly it resonates with me very, very strongly. So she's called Ailish Keating. She's from Ireland, and she is the 14th speaker, and due to family circumstances she cannot be, but I'm sure she would have jumped in to talk about the witch wound in a very lengthy way, because we had a lovely conversation around the weight of that on shoulders of so many women, and the weight of this. If I get seen money for what I do, for healing, basically, then I'm cursed. I'm symbolic way. We're talking a very rooted body way. The fear that creeps is really very strong. And I think another one of our speakers who could really speak about that would be Vivian, since her talk is called How I Became a Healer, or How I Knew I was a Healer. So do you recognize this fear or this witch wound, as you want to call it?
Oh, absolutely, of course, and I've seen it in almost all the women that I have worked with. All my clients have some level of fear, of being seen, of being, getting at risk of being persecuted, or it's something that, because sometimes when I talk to women that have this fear, it's so, um, sometimes they think that it's so irrational, right? Because I mean, I've had people tell me like, I don't know why I get so scared. I mean, there's it's not logical. There's no, I mean, I can't understand. And when I explain to them what the winch wound is and where it comes from, they make sense of it, and they understand. Wow, where this is coming from. This is something that's very, very real,
Yeah.
very, very real. And I think, most women, if not all, have that at some point, um, because we still carry those, wounds, we still carry, those memories, even if not they are not in our conscious mind, but
Oops, we've lost Vivian. The internet decided to shut her. She's coming back, I'm sure. But
okay.
there she is.
I'm sorry, I don't know what happened.
That's all right. Too much visibility.
Yeah, I actually had to deal with a lot of this, last year, because last year, in December, 2021, I got a tax audit, and that was like the scariest experience that I ever had, and I knew that it was like, it was it was irrational to feel this fear. And then doing work with past lives and all that, I realized that it all came from a past life in which I had been, one of many past lives that I had been, tortured and killed because of my healing abilities and all that. And that experience, triggered something very, very deep inside of me, and it felt like the same fear of persecution. It was the same fear in my body. I mean, like, I used to go to sleep like fearing for my life, and it was like, when I talked to myself, and I thought like, hey, I mean, there's no problem at all. I mean, nothing is going to happen to you. There's nothing wrong. It's everything is okay. But something very deep inside of me, like my nervous system, was like, stressed out, until I did this work with past lives, and I understood where it all comes from, and that's where everything healed, and it was an amazing, amazing experience. So sometimes there are events that trigger, those memories in us, and it can feel very, very scary. Even though I've been in business for many years, and I'm used to like being visible and sharing my story and things, but you know, all of a sudden that fear, made me like, start like playing small, and not being seen, and all this that I thought that I had, already, that I had already, worked through this. So yeah, this is something
That's the thing.
that's very, very
That's the
real.
thing. And if I go around this nice, beautiful circle of women that we have today, we have women from 2, 3, 4 continents, and this fear of visibility is shared by so many of us, which brings me to one other very crucial thing in this summit for me, is that we get to reassure ourselves and everyone else that we are not alone in this.
Exactly.
Whatever path we're walking, this is not a dark, lonely path. This is a path that other women are walking or have walked before or after us or alongside us in some remote part of the world. And it's really interesting to see that there's a thing called egregores, which are supposed to be collective unconscious clouds, but intangible clouds that are above the planet. And the one for the witch wound is really still very powerful, to my opinion. Does anyone else want to talk around that subject, or shall I ask another question?
What came to mind for me in the storytelling and in the people who would be listening to our stories is how it might inspire them to look inside, to find the stories that are most compelling, and also how they might tell different endings to their story because of hearing, the multitude
At
of
this point,
stories.
Maureen, I'm going to interrupt because you're actually answering the question that I did not ask. You got it. I was going to say, how can we explain or lead or enlighten the women to start healing and hearing their own stories? And thank you. So please proceed.
Yeah. I mean, that's such an intriguing question. Like, what are the stories that, you can, as a conversation starter, even, what are the stories that you typically tell? And in the invitation to tell a different ending, or what multiple endings could you design? And, because they're, like I said, they're gateways to multiple destinations, and we forget that.
Yeah, I recently found out that one of the is one well-known, very stories that I've told to everyone, including a couple of psychotherapists, had actually an underground layer that I was ignoring completely. And once I saw that, I could not unsee it, obviously. And what happened is immediately it changed completely the whole perspective, not only of of the story, but of my whole life. It was like, oh, and so really having a good look at the stories that we think we know around our lives, that we think are familiar, well known, we've studied it, or as Vivian was saying, oh, I've overcame that one, I've worked enough on that one. Well, sometimes it's just one little shift in perspective.
Exactly.
And I came to realize.
Oh, sorry. I was thinking it's almost like the dominoes. It's like, oh my God, if that's not true, then that's not true, and that's not true, and that's not true. And suddenly this big space opens up. Yeah.
I came to realize that.
I've also found.
Sorry, go on.
Oh, well, I was just going to. Oh, well, in telling stories, I work with people and their homes, and it's amazing how often, I work with people who are sentimental savers and have a hard time sometimes letting go of sentimental stuff that they know they need to let go of. And it's amazing. And I'll say this for myself as well. When we tell the story that is encased in this thing, this physical object, then people can let go of it. It's like the story that is trapped inside is like held in like this concrete, this like can't move and can't be released, and the energy is so stuck. And then when the story of it is told, it's like, oh, that's all. I just needed to tell the story and figure out what that thing was about, and fine, let it go now. It has no more meaning. It's like it pulls the stuckness out.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would also like to speak to this, why this summit is so important in telling the story, because we need often someone else to witness our story, so it doesn't stay in our head. And I always raise this example of internalized shame. So when someone does something to us that is really wrong, and there is no one else around, either they look away or they agree with that person who does it, or there is no one, we believe it's our fault and we are wrong. And in those cases, it often needs like an external loving witness for us to realize, oh, it wasn't me, but the thing that happened to me was wrong. And there is so much power in that, and that's what these talks are doing.
Absolutely.
Leslie. I love where the. Oh, sorry, Leslie, you go first.
Oh, sorry, Cindy, I didn't see you.
It's okay.
I want to add into this because I've been in the sort of spiritual community for a very long time, and there's a kind of a teaching around getting over the story, move past the story, come more into the present moment. Don't spend so much time thinking about the past or projecting about the future. Be present. And I think that I really bought into that for a while, like try not telling stories because I don't want to be stuck in my story. But there's something so valuable about the story when we decide in a way to tell it in a very conscious way, and that the story actually supports the present moment, our present experience, when we can see like how we've evolved through our story. And there's something else that's trying to come through about this, and I'm not quite finding the words. But I guess it's just like really a holding space for ourselves and the value of these stories that is so important. And I would want to encourage anyone who has thought that they should move past their story, that there's gems there, and in sharing the story, like Lisa was saying, and being seen in the story, there's healing possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there is a lot to be said about ignoring the story is not letting it go. It's just ignoring it. It's pushing it through under the carpet, but it's still there. Dealing with the story, listening to the story, letting it, get its course, then you can let it rest.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's just a question of, I don't want to be this person anymore, so I'll under the carpet. So, Cindy,
and
darling,
I think a lot of us have been shamed by. Well, I just think a lot of us have been shamed in all kinds of ways, maybe in the psychological realm, in the therapeutic realm, in the spiritual realm, for being stuck in the story. And there's so much life available in our stories.
I agree, absolutely.
Yeah.
Cindy, darling, we caught you before.
Yes. No, that's okay. I'm so glad Leslie spoke first, because I can so relate to what we were taught as yoga teachers and being stuck in that thinking too. And as I came into midlife, what I realized was how important it was to acknowledge the story and to be with it, not to dwell in it, but to be with it and witness it and then release it. And I think, and also come into this possibility of rewriting the story that someone else just mentioned. And I think what happens in midlife, and that's the women I work with are in midlife, and they're going through perimenopause and menopause, and things become awakened in perimenopause, and it's a real time in our lives that we can look back and reflect on our life. And I think it's a really golden opportunity, because by then we have layers and layers and layers of stories, that have been piled upon us. And I think it's important for women to tell their stories so that they can let go of them. And I think it's that piece about shifting perspective is huge, because then women can open up and see, oh yeah, this is the story that's been handed down to me and my family for eons, but I can rewrite that. I can choose. And there are infinite possibilities of how that story might go.
Absolutely. And the more the merrier. We are not doing that for ourselves, although we are, but we are not doing it for ourselves. We are doing it for the community. We're doing it for our mothers or grandmothers and for our daughters. Oh, getting me emotional every time. I don't have any daughters. For your daughters, then. But yeah, I think that the part of it is part of the power of telling the story and dealing with the story, and indeed releasing it, rewriting it, or just acknowledging it to start with, is that we are not only doing it for ourselves.
I have two.
I'm going to go and look at my notes.
I'd like to say just one more thing. I have both a daughter and a son, and I'm really committed to kind of changing the legacy of just so many things that involve women, but especially menopause and how it's been held in the shadows. To like my grandmother used to call it the change. It was a word that wasn't even uttered, and my son is such a sensitive soul, and I feel like this is complete changing and creating a completely new legacy for all of my family for all of time to come.
Agreed, and for the rest of the world as well, because I believe that we kind of good things spread like that. So we spread in our families, in our communities, and then in the world. So unless anyone anything on that topic, my next question would be: Chris and myself, we asked you to watch and listen to each other's talks as well. So, is there anything that you want to share with our listeners around what you discovered listening to other talks, to other speakers' stories?
I think I said earlier already, like in every single story, there was at least one thing, and often many things, that just landed in my body. Like I could feel it, the gravity of it, the intensity of it, and the potential in it. And I think that there's an awakening that happens in that. Like it lit me up and helped me to see something new. One example of that is in Vivian's story, actually. And I've heard several people that are on the screen right now are friends of mine, people I've known for a long time. So I've heard your stories, but Vivian's story was a new story for me. And I, first of all, just really resonated with that sense of acknowledging, like kind of accepting, stepping into, holding space even for myself as a healer, as somebody who helps with the healing of the world, which has always been my mission, and also that sense of feeling a little like shy about saying that. But there also was one line that you said, Vivian, that was one of those that was just like, oh, and it felt so good. But you said at the end, I think it was at the end of your talk, about death, and even death being an act of love, and that everything that we do is an act of love. And I just love the way that you expressed that, and it helped me to see some of my own story, parts that I didn't share even in this summit, but a piece of that, like it shifted something really deeply for me. So thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you so much. I love this. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Really interesting. I'm going to just rebound on this one because I actually had a revelation while listening to your talk, Vivian, as well, which had nothing to do with your talk. Or it's like in the middle of the talk, at some point, there's a little sentence, and it just struck me, just like the one Leslie is pointing out, but it's completely different, in a completely different direction. So I thought it's really interesting that, in one story, two people like Leslie and myself in this occurrence, but I'm sure many more, can be touched by completely different things. For me, it's something that you mentioned in passing. Oh, and I decided to, I don't even remember right now, and I don't want to get into that because it's not my turn, but the idea is that we touch other people in the weirdest way and in so many different ways when we share our stories.
Exactly. Yeah. In my experience, when I still haven't listened to all the talks, but I'm fascinated by the ones that I have listened to so far, and what I have felt is like I felt like so humbled by and so it's as if I felt like some sense of being of walking together, of us all like walking together, even though we haven't met before, or but this sense of there are other women that have had like similar experiences to mine, or even not similar experiences, but that are human, and that are living in this human experience, and they have been brave, and they have been courageous, and they have been vulnerable, and they have been resilient, and And for me, it's been like so healing to hear that, and to, yeah, like to compare those stories with my own stories, and with everything I've been through, you know. And there's something very, very magical in like, I feel like there's something magical in allowing yourself to be witnessed through the stories that you tell. But this also goes the other way around, because when you're listening to all these stories, it's as if you were also being witnessed through those stories. As I mean, as you witness the speakers, as you witness their stories, you feel that you are being witnessed too. And and this is incredibly powerful. So I am really, really grateful for you, Isaiah and Chris, to have like put all this together. I know it's been a lot of work, but I think that this is such an important legacy to the world, to, you know, like this opportunity for us to listen to each other, because that's what it's about. I mean, when you're listening to the stories, it's like you're listening to the woman that you're listening to, and you're also like listening to yourself at the same time. And it's, I think it's there's something that I really have no words to express. It's like we start like weaving a very magical fabric, which we're all together part of a same thing. I don't know. I don't know. I don't really know how to express it, but it's been really, really magical. So thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you for this beautiful description. I love it. I love it. And indeed, I you know, I think Chris and myself, Christy can be a better witness as well, since she was there at the beginning. We did not know what we were doing, and we still don't. This project has now become what I think, I don't remember who said that. This is a project that now has legs. It walks on its own. It's really, I don't consider myself a channel per se, but I think that we have been guided to do this. Then, you know, first it was invite women to talk. There was, hey, but they have to listen to each other's stories as well, so we can do the live panels and all the things that we came to invent or create or whatever. Now create this tapestry or whatever weaving magic fabric that you mentioned. But I have to say it was not intentional. It was just like everything seems to participate. So we were not architects, we were weavers as well.
Yeah, we said yes.
Yeah.
Right? We said yes, and other women said yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So is there anyone else who wants to talk? Cindy, I think you wanted to talk around what did you get out of each other's talks?
Right. Well, that same sentence, death is an act of love, struck me too. And what I realized in hearing Leslie reflect on that, and then Vivian, is that I've had another aha moment around that. And for me, that idea has had some layers. So I'm thinking about, immediately I thought of the people in my own life who've left this world, and how in some way that served some healing. It served a higher purpose in some way, or it served, maybe a family connection. So I thought of that, but then I also thought of, from a yogic perspective, there's a practice called Shavasana, or corpse pose, which is death pose. And that act of death, that act of surrender, is a deep act of self-love when you're on the mat, when you can give that to yourself. So that struck me today.
Love that.
I love that.
I was thinking about how listening to the stories of other women really dissolves the separateness and the boundaries between us. The experience that I had was like a softening of my heart, an opening, surprise and delight, respect for the deep wisdom and the profundity, the humor, the expansiveness. Like it was really just, sparkling in the variety of
Oh, I love that.
emotions and connections. Mm-hmm.
It's really interesting for me because I get to every year. I'm coming to you, Lois, but every year watch all the talks like in a row because every speaker sends them to me and I have to do the editing and the pimping to prep them for the summit to be beautiful. And so yeah, I know, Chris. And so I watched all your talks in a row, kind of in 3 or 4 days, 4 a day or something like that. And I did not take any notes. And I know that it doesn't matter because everything it's kind of dissolved into each other, like a big tapestry once again. So yeah, that was interesting. Lois, sorry, you got me confused there.
Oh no, that's okay. Actually, I did take notes.
How?
because things start to blend together, and I found that really fascinating with all the speakers. I went, now I'm trying to remember who said that because that was it was like an epiphany, right? And so relatable. And so I thought, no, I need to do a spreadsheet. That's my old type A administrative.
Congratulations. No, we're talking A-level student. A-level student. Congratulations.
Well, there was kind of a story around that in that I fought moving into that creative zone, right? I had a lot of resistance, and my guides probably several years ago said, "Why are you fighting us? Use your type A for your creative business. Please, just do it." And so it was like, oh, I guess I can. I don't have to separate the two. But a couple things that I think it was Callie that was talking about the peacocks and how the peacock eats these toxic plants and takes that toxins and converts it into the colorful feathers. And that I had to go do some research on that after I listened to her, and it really made me think about how we in our human bodies, a lot of the women, and I'm just relating from the women I've met and coached and all that, but we take in all these toxic stuff. We take in all the problems of everybody else. And then in my case, I became very sick. 20 years ago, and looking back at it, I can say it was all that negativeness, and I didn't know how to release it. I took it in, and I wasn't releasing it. And now that I know that in my journey, I was able to. And I wonder, I thought about that peacock story a lot, thinking, yeah, and now guess what? We've transmuted that into our beautiful stories, into our colorful beings, magnificent beings. And when somebody says, hi, how are you? I go, magnificent, lovely, can't wait to start the day. And they all kind of like, oh, she maybe had too much coffee. I don't know. And then yesterday she said, I believe it was Callie again, said that no is a complete sentence. And I thought about that because in years gone by, in 30 years in public service and government, we taught people, and I was one of those facilitators, taught people never just say no. Always qualify it with no, but I will send you over here or do this or do that. You had to qualify it. And even I would say to my children when they were small, don't just say no, tell me why. To help me understand. And now we can say, no, actually, no, I don't need to explain myself to you. The answer is no. And I thought, oh, yay, that was really wonderful.
Yeah, I love the no is a complete sentence thing. It's like, stop justifying, explaining, or finding alternative solutions. No, I won't do this, but I will do that for you. No, I don't. No. And it took me years. And every time it repeats, no is a complete sentence. There's another part of me that relaxes in there and says, okay, I can say no then. Ah, good. So,
And
yeah.
I think that's another thing that many women or people socialized as women experience, this need to justify. We already justify ourselves when nobody has even asked for the justification, just because we feel like almost we have to justify our very existence on this planet. And like like listening to these talks, and oh my god, these stories, like many of you displayed like long times in your life throughout the talk, and like so many things that happen along the way, so many beautiful things, the aliveness of each story, of each life, even in the uncomfortable moments, is amazing. It's so rich, so many jewels. And it's just amazing to be part of that. And also something I would like to speak to is that the toxic, the shit that we have and hold in our bodies, where do we hold it? Most often in our womb space. And no wonder that we see so many women experience diseases that have to do with our womb space, like things like endometriosis and cysts and menopausal issues. Everything is related to our womb and to our feminine essence. And yeah, I think this summit and every story contributes massively to a release of the toxic stuff and keeping the gems and keeping the good stuff for ourselves and for future generations, as you mentioned.
Thank you. We're taking this revolution outside of the quiet zone.
It's quiet, but it's powerful. That's the thing, you know. It's not going on the streets because it needs to happen here with inside all of us.
Yeah, I agree absolutely, as you know. So yes, thank you again to everyone for really daring to tell your story, to each other's stories as well. And it seems that you have taken something out of it, which makes my heart sing. So thank you again for that too. So
Isaiah,
yeah,
there's so many different levels of this in itself, you know, like maybe we kind of started it, we're like, oh, wouldn't it be fun to just share our stories? And then it was like, well, it'll help our businesses, right? Everybody has to get their business stuff in order, and maybe things that we have been ignoring or putting off or we didn't think we could do, you know, the tech stuff. And then we're sharing our story. Maybe viewers will see themselves, they'll want to work with us. But the women who take part in the summit, there's a whole huge, I don't know, there's so much involved where you're telling your story, one, so there's some healing there. There's sharing, you know, all the crap that swims around in your head. Once you say it out loud, something happens there. It's different. And then witnessing each other's talks, you know, there's another level there. And there's so much when you're involved in it. So, you know, I said this yesterday, anyone who's watching who thinks maybe I want to be a part of this, it'll be ongoing, right? In a
this is
year,
the legs.
Isaiah will put the call out again.
This is a project with legs.
And we'll keep going.
Yeah.
Yes, but and it's reaching so many people, you know, it's going to trickle down to your clients, everyone's clients in here, maybe people in your groups, people in the Women Lighting the Way group. So yeah,
yes, I agree.
Back, but
I'm glad you said that, Chris, because I would just like to say to the women who are listening that this is a program where you are lovingly held for each step of the journey. It's not like you're just thrown into a vortex and sink or swim. every single piece of this journey has been lovingly laid out for us. And the process of this Step Up and Speak program that led into this was so beautiful and so empowering. I couldn't say enough about it, actually. I think it's yeah.
And, you know, we're not sure where it's going or what it's becoming, because we've kind of thought, oh, this is a business program. And we kind of tried that angle, but oh, it's not really a business program. And, it was free for all the speakers to join and participate. So I can't wait to see what happens. So as long as we can stick it out, Isaiah, like, I sent you a message this morning, like, I don't know where it's going, but I know it's becoming, it's growing. And we've already reached beyond, our first little circle. Now we're getting into other circles of women who are already out there and doing their thing.
It's really exciting that ripples are starting to show. For some of you who are very observant, you might have noticed that we have 3 days in the summit, and each day has got an initial. So we have H is for healing, E is empowerment, and R is for ripples. So today's the ripples day, and if you put them all together, it forms the word her. Chris came up with that. Amazing. And today's the ripples day. So yeah, it's a right day to talk about the ripples that the fact that each of you participated is going to have into her life, her business, her community, her family. And then the bigger ripples, and then when all of the ripples, when my ripples touch yours, then we've kind of changed the whole constitution of the pond. And that makes me happy. If I was going to ask for one word or a very short sentence to sum up your experience of participating to this summit, what would that be? Shall we go in circle? So I'll start with Christy, because you're above my head now.
Yeah. Empowering is what popped up first, just as soon as you said it. It's very empowering.
Good. Thank you. Leslie?
Well, what first came to my mind is authenticity, the contribution to authenticity. So important.
Thank you very much. It's really a word that is dear to my heart. I cannot insist enough on how much I think we are engulfed into a work of fake things, fake news, fake personas, fake marketing, fake texts written by people who are not and really aiming for authenticity is not only for me a life choice, it's also a business choice. It's like I will stand firm in believing today and forever that if people are going to buy from me, I want them to buy from the real me. And that this is how people connect. They connect with real, authentic other people and not with, created stuff or fake stuff. So thank you, Leslie. This is my little battle thing. So I'm going to put my sword down and ask Lisa, what's your word?
It's more a short sentence, which is landing more fully in myself, in my body. We so often try to get out, and I am landing.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I think that because you're talking about yourself, but I think that it can be applied to any of us that, working online, and even, talking right now as bobbing heads. We have this very strong attraction of getting out of our bodies. So I think it's really nice reminder that the landing is what does the trick. Thank you. Vivian?
For me, the word is enlightening.
Yeah. Good. Thank you for quoting the title of the summit. Awesome. Thank you. Cindy?
I also received more of a phrase, a lovely experience of community and deep connection with ourselves and each other.
Very much. This is beautiful. I'm going to quote that for as a testimonial for next year. It's a nice reminder. Thank you. Maureen.
Yes, inspiring and delighting and wonder-filled.
Oh, wonderful. I did not know this word. Thank you. Teaching me the language even. From Mexico. I have to say, I can't imagine. But every now and then I remember, oh, you're in Mexico. It's like
Ciao, ciao,
amazing.
ciao.
I love that we have speakers from around the world. I love that some of you have little accents that we can know that we're not from the same place. And that means that the ripples are going farther and farther away. And I love that. But it started like this. Let me remind for anyone who doesn't know that Chris lives in Minnesota and I live in France, and we have actually never met yet. Lois, darling.
I think anchoring of the light. And I feel like the anchoring is what you were saying about all over the world. You know, it would be really great to do a map of everybody that's involved, not just the speakers, and put the pins on the map of where everybody's from. And if we look at it, the light, you know, that we are anchoring, we're the anchors, and it's just going to grow. So I love that.
Oh, I love that. I love that. There is a map. I created a map with the speakers for the 3 years. Creating a map with every attendee would take me a lot of time that I don't have right now, but the idea is lovely. Maybe someday I'll do that. But yeah, that would be amazing. And if anyone listening to us wants to volunteer to do the map, please be my guest. Or just, you know, even to just compile the addresses or the countries of each speaker, that would be of each attendee, that would be amazing. Thank you. Chris, my darling, what's your word?
My word?
Well, you know, I said I'd go around, so.
I'm saying gratitude this year because, like you said, I've not been around for the whole thing. I dropped in once, and so I'm so grateful to you, Isaiah, for continuing and going out and finding the speakers for this year. 14 amazing speakers and amazing talks, and I love it. I love how we have similar themes and similar lessons, but such different stories and ways of hearing them. So thank you all of you, and thank you, Isaiah.
Yeah, gratitude would be my word as well for the same reason. So I'm not going to go very lengthy on that. But what you said, just Chris, made me think of this idea that one of my fears when we started was we're going to have all the horror stories. We're going to have everyone telling us how they've recovered from hell, because that would make them seem more powerful, more together, more finished. And I thought, this is going to be very depressing to listen to, you know, because, all right, they've recovered, but first you have to listen as a listener. And I'm very, the emotion hits me very hard. So I thought, this is going to be hell for me. I'm going to listen to the horror stories. And that's the one thing I want to say that I'm grateful for, is that none of you ever basks in their horror. Whether you had it or not, you do not enjoy that enough to make it a spectacle. And I want to congratulate you, each and every one of you, because it's not about having made it to the other side or whatever, or being finished, as Lisa was mentioning earlier on, but it's about not enjoying that enough to just, melt it and, and have a look at it, and again and again and again, because this is not how we let it go. And for me, that's my gratitude, is that I got to listen to your stories, to empathize with each and every one of you, but I did not get wounded by your stories. And if I didn't, neither did our listeners. And I want to be grateful to each and every one of you for that, for being the light that is in women lighting the way. Oh, and I'm crying. Take it over. I'm the wussy that's crying all the time.
I'm coming. I'm coming next year, Isaiah. My daughter and I wanted to see Taylor Swift, and we didn't get tickets to Taylor Swift. So she's coming to Europe next summer. So we're gonna come to Europe to see Taylor Swift.
Okay, so
and,
the easiest way to see Taylor
someone's gonna
Swift
put us
is
up.
not to come to Europe. You do realize. One last question.
She's doing some work.
Sorry.
She's lifting up women.
She is.
She's speaking
She is. When I was in
some
English,
truth and having fun at the same
when
time.
I was teaching middle school English as an ESL, I used Taylor Swift lyrics for my pupils. So yeah, because I live in a very rural area of France where 14-year-old boys have no consideration for girls. So it was really needed. Anyway, I found another question. So because we still have some time, so if any of you wants to speak on the subject of what were you hoping that the attendees get out of this, out of your your talk, or the summit as a whole? What are you wishing that, or hoping, or making sure? Lisa.
You just said it, hope. That was my wish, for people to get hope, because when you are in the mess, it's extremely hard to feel hopeful. And listening to all these, to the bigger and smaller stories that are in all of our stories, it just gives hope that something different is possible, and that life will, even when we can't see the light in this moment, we know that there is going to be some light at some point.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else?
I would say connection and belonging to something greater than themselves.
I love that. The thing is, we say such profound things in very little words, so then I have to find other questions. Can you elaborate, ladies, please? Just joking. No, it's beautiful because we don't have to make things complicated or lengthy. Indeed. And that's another thing that maybe our listeners are curious about. We ask for your talks to be 30 minutes. We accept up to 45, but we invite for 30 minutes. And for some of the speakers, it's been a challenge. So some of the speakers say it's like my first draft was an hour and a half. We had a speaker last year, the first year, her first draft was 3 hours. She started talking and could not stop, basically. And she had to think about, for others, it's complicated to 30 minutes because their story is, or the part of the story that they're telling is so clear in their heads that they go straight to the point, basically. And those both extremes, I think, are an invitation also to see that how much power we can fit into this boundary thing of 30 minutes. When I recorded my talk, year one, it was 29 minutes 59. Would you believe it? The first draft was 29 minutes and 59 seconds. I'd not planned anything. Stopped the thing, and it was like, fucking hell, I said 30 minutes, but that big. So I also believe we kind of prep our story or the part of the story to what we want it to be. What is the I want to say in that story about myself, and I'm going to fit it into this boundary. So what else did we not talk about?
I have a question for everybody. In telling your story, was there something that came out that you didn't expect or that you hadn't planned for that surprised you?
Good question.
I think I had an aha while I have to go back because I was thinking, I hadn't thought about it, and I honestly haven't re-listened to it, not because I'm trying to avoid it, but life hasn't created that space. I've been listening to everybody else's. But I realized, I think while I was having it, and I'm like, when I'm talking, I'm so present that I'm not really quite sure what I'm saying. You know, it's like before I do a talk, I always kind of connect with the higher spirits of everyone who will hear me and ask to just say what they need to hear. So, and have it come through me. And that's how I write my weekly newsletters. I'm like, what does somebody need to hear? And then it just like starts to flow. So I actually am curious to go back to mine, because I know certainly, I think almost everybody's talks that I've listened to, I like have to pause at some point and like run to my journal and go like, oh my God, yeah, I had, something happened. So I don't know if that's answering a question, but I'll stop there.
No, that's cool. Yes, I might have something that surprised me. I don't know, because I don't remember what I said. I love that. I have a similar kind of experience, to be honest.
One of the things that surprised me was after I agreed to do this, I was laying in bed one night and the title of my story popped into my head. And I had the feeling in the moment like, what? I'm going to tell that story? So, but it was there and it just continued like, yeah. So I called my story Born to Burn Out. And it was like, that's the story. And anyway, so that was kind of fun to then like play on that. Okay, if that's the title, then what is the, what are the words that go with that?
That's also something that we did not mention, is that we ask you guys to find your own titles. But we again have a kind of a strict boundary of it. It needs to be long, but not too long. It needs to be short, but not too short. You know, and it needs to be too. And all of you had such creative ways of finding your titles. And you know, going through it, and I changes and not, no, I am sticking to, you know, for one like you, Leslie, who woke up in the middle of the night with the talk and the title, poof. We've had Maureen, who changed her titles because when she saw her story, I guess, or when the story kind of was spread in front of you, then the title was obviously not the right one. And it made so much sense, and I love that. I love that we also, going through the process of recording and doing the story thing, we name it. And naming a story is a very powerful thing. There's then a reclaiming of that story the instant I name it. And one of you, I think it's one of the speakers who is not here today, but was in yesterday's live panel, asked me to name her talk, and I said, no, I'm not going to do that. Because even if I did, you would not like it and you'd change it. So I'm not even going to bother. You sit with it, and it doesn't matter if it takes you a while. But indeed, it's not my place to name your story. This would be kind of completely disempowering for me. So, and all of the titles, because we ask for the titles first, and we don't get the talks. So I have the titles, and then I start guessing. What is this going to be about then? So what's this ruby slippers thingy, and who's outside of her body? You know, I love that. You know, the cure builds up for me, and hopefully for the attendees, because the titles are on the Summit platform very early on, way before the talks appear. So yeah, another bit of the weaving the story is also naming it, and then I think there's somebody said that earlier on. It's something about taking the story out of my heart and putting it out there. And then it becomes less associated with a thing of its own. And it's maybe so heavy to carry with me on the inside. It's now living partly on the outside of me. And I love that. Voila. Anyone else wants to answer Maureen's question? Do you want to remind us?
I actually wanted to answer your question that you asked before Maureen answered that question about what I hope that the attendees would
Attendees
get
will
out
get,
of.
yeah.
Yeah, and I, one of the metaphors or images that I often use is around words. When you hear the words of someone else, a teacher or a mentor or somebody that inspires you in some way, which we all hope that our stories will inspire, it's like the striker on a bell. And so any of the words, the phrases, the pieces of the story that touched you, it's like there's a resonance. And so you can really allow yourself like to ring with that resonance and then see where that takes you and what it lights up in you, what it awakens in you. And over and over again, as we move through our lives, there are going to be all those experiences that we have that of connecting with another person, but always to remember or to allow that resonance to really help you hold what is the most important for you in that moment that the bell is ringing.
I'm loving that. Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. I love that. Lois.
Yeah, on that question, I thought I would really love for people to really embrace their divine soul and their uniqueness. You know, really take one thing that you heard a speaker say and move forward with it. And that is the first step, you know, in embracing you, right? And how special we all are.
Thank you. I love that. I love that. Indeed. Well, I think that we've gone our 90 minutes. So if anyone wants to add anything, but in the meantime, while you think about if you want to add anything, I'm going to thank everyone once again, the attendees, the people listening on live or on the replay to this panel. If you do not have a ticket, a free ticket to listen to the actual talks of these amazing 7 speakers that are here today with Chris and myself, and to the other 7 who you could maybe meet in yesterday's live panel, or for 2 of them that were had prior engagements, you will so namely Joan Kennedy and Ailish Keating. You have to get the talks, and you can find a ticket, a free ticket to the whole summit. So I'm going to share the link by clicking on this link. You have access to everyone, also a freebie that is going to be sent to you after the summit is finished. You have a week's replays, and you have the to work with each and every one of our speakers. They have amazing offers that are specially crafted for this summit. And if you register before the end of tonight, you also will enter a giveaway for each of the talks that you register to, and who knows, you might be a lucky winner for our raffle. So yeah, this is the last talk live of the summit for 2023. It's like again tomorrow. This is going to be cool. All the tech is done. But you have a week's of free replay that you can go and listen to the talks either for the first time or again, and let them, how do you say that, trickle into your system, and let the magic of each of our speakers and lessons, the jokes, the tears, and the magic, the sheer magic. I think the word that I've used the most when speaking to our speakers this year is humbled. And again, I am humbled. Thank you very, very much to everyone.
Thank you too.
On whichever side of the camera. And yeah, it's promise we're coming back in 2024 with Women Lighting the Way 2024 edition. We are not dealing with any of that before 2024 because, all of us have lives and businesses, but wait for next spring. If you want to be a speaker and you know it right now. You can reach out to me, but I will not get back to you until March because I have so many other things. And I'm going to use this to actually advertise. Ooh, promotion. Yes. I am going to be running a second summit this year, and not many people know about it. No, you don't, Chris. I'm going to be running a tarot and oracle deck summit in November. So you want to be in that one. This is going to be about people who create decks, people who use decks, people who read cards, people who are just fanatics about tarot, oracle cards, or anything of the sorts. So if you're interested in that, this is going to be the first weekend of November. And yeah, I'm excited about that now. Also,
Oh,
yeah.
Great.
fun.
Yeah, this is fun too. Yeah. So thank you very much, everyone, and I'm sending lots of love through all to
Thank you.
each speaker. Maybe you want to say
Thank
goodbye.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I guess.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye for now.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.